The year was 2387, and Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Aurora watching stars streak past the viewport. Earth had finally done it after centuries of dreaming and planning. Humans had built ships that could travel faster than light using something called quantum drive technology. The Aurora was humanity's first real explorer ship designed to venture beyond the solar system and see what waited among the stars. Jake had been flying ships for 15 years, but nothing compared to this moment. 3 months ago, they left Earth orbit with a crew of 40 brave souls ready to make history. Their mission was simple on paper, but massive in reality. They would visit nearby star systems and look for signs of life or planets that humans might one day call home. Every day brought new discoveries as they mapped unknown regions of space. The ship's sensors started beeping loudly, and Jake turned to his science officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster, who was studying the readings with deep concentration. She had joined the crew straight from the International Space Academy, where she specialized in xenobiology and quantum physics. Her excitement about finding alien life was infectious and kept the whole crew motivated during long months in deep space. "Captain, we're picking up something artificial near the edge of our solar system," Amy said while adjusting the controls to get a clearer picture. "It's definitely not natural, and it's been there for a very long time based on the energy signatures." Jake felt his heart rate increase as he realized what this might mean. First contact with alien intelligence was something humanity had dreamed about for generations. Scientists and philosophers had written countless books about how it might happen and what it would mean for the future of the human race. Now it seemed like that moment had finally arrived. "Take us closer, but keep our distance," Jake ordered the helmsman. "If this is what I think it is, we need to be very careful about how we approach." The Aurora moved slowly toward the mysterious object, while the crew prepared all their recording equipment. What they found was a massive space station unlike anything in human design. It looked like someone had grown metal trees in space with branches extending in all directions. Strange lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that seemed almost like a heartbeat. The technology was clearly far beyond anything humans had ever built. Before they could study it further, a beam of energy reached out from the station and touched their ship. Jake ordered battle stations, but nothing happened, except that their communication system activated on its own. A voice spoke in perfect English with words that made everyone on the bridge freeze in terror. "Human vessel, you will stop and prepare to receive an official message from the Galactic Council. Your species has been observed and evaluated. You will comply with all instructions or face immediate consequences." The main screen flickered and showed an alien being that looked like a giant insect standing upright. Its body was covered in dark chitinous plates and multiple arms moved as it spoke. 6 eyes focused on the camera with an intelligence that was clearly ancient and powerful. This was Overseer Zethkalar, and his presence filled the bridge with an aura of absolute authority. "I am Council Overseer Zethkalar, and I bring an official decree from the 12 species that govern this sector of the galaxy. Your race has developed space travel far too quickly for galactic safety and stability. In just 200 years, you have gone from primitive combustion engines to faster-than-light travel. This rapid advancement threatens the carefully maintained balance that has kept peace in our region for over 10,000 years." Jake found his voice and stepped forward, even though his hands were shaking. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Aurora. We come in peace and mean no harm to anyone. We're just exploring space to learn about the universe." The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Your intentions are irrelevant, human. Your species shows all the signs of aggressive expansion that we have seen destroy civilizations before. You build weapons before you build wisdom. You explore before you understand your place in the greater cosmic order. This cannot be permitted to continue." Amy activated her recording equipment to capture every word, while the rest of the crew listened in shocked silence. Everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe was being rewritten in real time. They were not alone, and they were not welcome. "The Galactic Council hereby issues this ultimatum to the species known as humans," Zethkalar continued with formal authority. "You will immediately cease all space exploration beyond your home star system. You will submit to Council oversight and accept the installation of inhibitor devices on all human technology. These devices will prevent further advancement beyond approved levels. Any resistance to these terms will result in the complete sterilization of your home planet and the elimination of your entire species." The bridge fell completely silent except for the humming of ship systems. Jake felt the weight of his species' future pressing down on his shoulders. This was not how first contact was supposed to happen according to any of the scenarios human scientists had imagined. There were no peaceful exchanges of knowledge or cultural understanding. Just threats and demands from beings who saw humanity as a problem to be solved. To demonstrate our capability and resolve, you will observe the following, the alien said as the screen switched, to show 3 massive warships near Jupiter. Each vessel was enormous and sleek with energy weapons charging along their hulls. Without warning, they fired synchronized beams at several of Jupiter's smaller moons. The ancient rocks that had orbited the gas giant for billions of years simply vanished in bursts of brilliant light. Where solid matter had existed moments before, there was now only empty space and glowing particles. Your species has exactly 30 of your standard days to comply with these terms, Zethkalar announced as the screen returned to his intimidating form. Any attempt to resist or negotiate will be considered an act of war against the Galactic Council. We have eliminated 17 species that refuse to accept their proper place in our civilization. You do not want to become the 18th. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the Aurora's crew staring at a blank screen. Jake realized he was holding his breath and forced himself to breathe normally. Around him, his officers began talking in hushed, worried voices as they tried to process what they had just witnessed. The universe had just become a much more dangerous place, and humanity was completely unprepared for what was coming. Amy broke the silence with a voice that was steady despite the fear in her eyes. Captain, we need to get this information back to Earth immediately. Our government and military leaders need to know what we're dealing with before that 30-day deadline runs out. Jake nodded and ordered the helmsman to set course for Earth at maximum speed. As the Aurora turned toward home, he wondered if they would arrive in time to make any difference at all. The Aurora raced back to Earth at maximum speed while Jake Morrison transmitted the alien ultimatum to Luna Base, using emergency channels. Admiral Lisa Hayes received the message in her command center deep beneath the lunar surface where Earth's military leaders had gathered for what everyone hoped would be routine exploration updates. Instead, they found themselves facing the greatest crisis in human history. President Kevin Turner arrived at Luna Base within 6 hours of receiving Lisa's emergency call. His face was pale, and his usually confident demeanor had been replaced by the weight of impossible decisions. The president had dealt with wars and natural disasters during his time in office, but nothing had prepared him for threats from advanced alien civilizations. Lisa played the recorded message from Overseer Zethkalar 3 times, while the Global Defense Council sat in stunned silence. General Frank Wilson from the European Defense Force shook his head repeatedly, as if he could make the whole situation disappear. Director Susan Clark from the Pacific Alliance kept taking notes even though everyone knew no amount of planning could prepare them for enemies with such overwhelming technological advantages. 30 days to surrender our freedom or watch our planet burn, President Turner said quietly after the 3rd viewing. What are our options here, Admiral Hayes? Lisa stood at the main display showing Earth's defensive capabilities, which suddenly seemed pathetically inadequate. Human weapons were designed to fight other humans, not beings who could destroy moons with casual ease. Earth's most powerful nuclear missiles would probably bounce harmlessly off alien shields that could deflect energy beams capable of vaporizing solid rock. Sir, we have 2 choices as I see it, Lisa replied with military precision. We can surrender immediately and hope they treat us fairly under their rule. Or we can try to find some way to resist and probably get wiped out in the process. Doctor? Amy Foster had arrived on Earth just hours behind the Aurora, and she stepped forward with a tablet full of sensor readings from their encounter with the alien station. Her analysis of the Council technology had revealed something that gave her a small spark of hope in an otherwise hopeless situation. Actually, Admiral, I think we might have a 3rd option, Amy said as she connected her tablet to the main display. Look at these energy signatures from their demonstration at Jupiter. Their weapons are incredibly powerful, but they operate on very predictable frequencies and patterns. The room watched as Amy highlighted sections of her data showing how the alien energy beams maintained consistent power levels and wavelengths throughout their attack. She pointed out that the Council ships stayed at safe distances from their targets, which suggested their technology might have limitations despite its obvious power. What are you thinking, Dr. Foster? President Turner asked with the first hint of hope in his voice since the crisis began. Amy took a deep breath before presenting an idea that sounded insane but might be humanity's only chance. Sir, I believe we can develop countermeasures against their weapons if we work fast enough. Human technology is newer and more adaptable than theirs. Where they have efficiency and control, we have flexibility and innovation. General Wilson laughed bitterly at the suggestion. Doctor, with all due respect, we're talking about beings who have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. What makes you think we can compete with that kind of experience and advancement? Because they're too rigid, Amy replied with growing confidence. Look at their attack patterns and ship formations. Everything follows precise mathematical models, with no room for improvisation. They've become so advanced that they've forgotten how to adapt to unexpected situations. President Turner authorized the most ambitious crash program in human history. Operation Prometheus would mobilize every scientist and engineer on Earth, along with all available resources from the lunar colonies and Mars settlements. Their mission was to find ways to defend humanity against impossible odds in less than 4 weeks. Dr. Carl Matthews joined the project from the Quantum Physics Institute, bringing expertise in the theoretical principles behind faster-than-light travel. His research into quantum mechanics had helped develop the drives that powered ships like the Aurora, and now he would apply that knowledge to military applications. Commander Tony Blake took charge of the weapons development team with a background in advanced missile systems and space combat tactics. He had spent years designing ways for human forces to fight each other, but now faced the challenge of creating weapons that could threaten enemies with technology centuries beyond human understanding. The first breakthrough came when Amy's team discovered that human quantum drives operated on completely different principles than Council technology. Where alien systems prioritized stability and predictable performance, human engineering embraced controlled chaos and constant adaptation. This fundamental difference might provide the key to surprising enemies who expected all technology to follow their rigid patterns. Working around the clock in facilities across Earth and its colonies, the Prometheus team developed 3 revolutionary defense systems. The Swarm protocol involved building thousands of small autonomous drones equipped with quantum drives and basic weapons. Individually, they would be no threat to Council ships, but in massive coordinated swarms, they might overwhelm alien targeting systems through sheer numbers and unpredictable movement. The Mirror Shield project focused on creating electromagnetic barriers that could deflect energy weapons by analyzing their frequencies and generating opposite wave patterns. Dr. Matthews led this effort using his knowledge of quantum field manipulation to create shields that could adapt in real time to different types of attacks. The most ambitious project was called the Hammer of Sol and involved modifying Earth's most powerful nuclear missiles with quantum drives and advanced artificial intelligence guidance systems. Commander Blake designed these weapons to think and adapt during flight, making them nearly impossible for rigid alien computers to track and destroy. Captain Jake Morrison volunteered his ship and crew for the most dangerous assignment in the operation. The Aurora would conduct reconnaissance missions using its stealth capabilities to observe Council forces and gather intelligence about their capabilities and weaknesses. Every piece of information about alien technology and tactics could mean the difference between survival and extinction. During their covert missions, Jake and his crew discovered that the Council maintained exactly 12 battleships positioned at strategic points around Earth's solar system. Each vessel was massive and heavily armed, but they moved in predictable patrol patterns and maintained constant communication with each other through centralized command protocols. Amy realized this communication dependency was a critical vulnerability. If they could disrupt the aliens' command structure, the entire fleet might lose coordination at the worst possible moment. Human military doctrine emphasized independent thinking and battlefield adaptation, while the Council apparently relied on rigid hierarchy and central control. With only 10 days remaining until the deadline, President Turner addressed the world about Operation Prometheus, without revealing specific details about their defensive preparations. He told humanity that they would not surrender their freedom without a fight, even if the odds seemed impossible. Meanwhile, in secret facilities around the globe, thousands of engineers worked frantically to complete systems that had never been tested against real alien technology. Everything depended on human ingenuity and the hope that rapid innovation could overcome ancient power. Overseer Zethkalar stood in the command chamber of his flagship, watching Earth through the massive viewport with growing irritation. 25 days had passed since his ultimatum, and the humans had not responded with surrender as expected. Every species in Council history had submitted within the first week after witnessing their power demonstration. The silence from Earth was both puzzling and insulting to someone who had never been. Ignored by inferior beings, the Council maintained 12 massive battleships positioned around Earth's solar system, in what they called a containment formation. Each vessel was the size of a small city, with enough firepower to crack planetary crusts and boil away oceans. Zethkalar commanded the fleet from his flagship Dominion's Edge, which carried the most advanced weapons and communication systems in the Council arsenal. Admiral Vexthera of the Kythera species served as his second in command, and had been growing increasingly impatient with the human delay. Her telepathic abilities allowed her to sense emotions across vast distances, and she claimed to detect defiance rather than fear from the planet below. This was unprecedented behavior that violated every prediction model the Council had developed over 10,000 years of galactic dominance. Perhaps we should simply begin the sterilization process, Vexthara suggested while monitoring long-range sensors. These humans clearly lacked the intelligence to understand their situation. A quick demonstration on one of their smaller cities might clarify our seriousness. Zethkalar considered this option, but decided against immediate action. The Council prided itself on following proper protocols even when dealing with stubborn primitives. Every species deserved the full 30-day period to accept reality and submit to superior authority. Breaking this tradition would set a dangerous precedent that might encourage future resistance. Instead, he chose to send a personal envoy to Earth's surface for direct communication with human leaders. This approach had never been necessary before, but these humans seemed to require special handling. Perhaps seeing a Council representative in person would finally convince them that resistance was impossible. The envoy chosen for this mission was Mordeth of the Kythera species, whose telepathic powers and intimidating presence had convinced dozens of stubborn civilizations to surrender without bloodshed. Mordeth stood nearly 3 meters tall with pale blue skin and large black eyes that seemed to look directly into a person's soul. His mind could read surface thoughts and project overwhelming fear into primitive brains. Mordeth's shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere toward Geneva, where human leaders had gathered for what they called emergency sessions. The alien craft ignored all air traffic control attempts at communication and landed directly in the plaza outside the United Nations building. Thousands of humans fled in panic while news cameras broadcast the historic moment around the world. Security forces surrounded the shuttle but kept their weapons lowered on orders from President Turner, who understood that any aggressive action might trigger the immediate destruction of Earth. When the shuttle door opened and Mordeth emerged, the crowd fell silent at the sight of their first alien visitor. His presence radiated an aura of ancient power that made even brave soldiers step backward instinctively. Dr. Amy Foster watched from inside the UN building while monitoring the alien craft with hidden sensors she had secretly installed throughout Geneva during the past week. Her equipment analyzed every energy signature and transmission from Mordeth's technology, providing invaluable data about Council systems and capabilities. The readings revealed something unexpected that made Amy's pulse quicken with excitement. Council technology relied heavily on centralized control matrices, with constant communication between individual devices and command systems. Every piece of alien equipment, from weapons to life support, maintained continuous contact with central computers that coordinated all functions. This discovery aligned perfectly with her theories about Council weakness. Their civilization had become so advanced and rigid that they had eliminated redundancy and individual initiative from their systems. If something disrupted their central control networks, the entire structure might collapse like a house of cards. President Turner met with Mordeth in the main assembly hall while world leaders watched nervously from the gallery. The alien's telepathic abilities allowed him to read surface thoughts from most humans present, but he found their minds chaotic and difficult to fully penetrate compared to other species he had encountered. "I am Mordeth, speaking for Overseer Zethkalar and the Galactic Council," the alien announced in perfect English with a voice that seemed to echo inside listeners' heads. "Your species has been granted unprecedented patience, but that time is now ending. You will explain why humans have not begun dismantling your space infrastructure as commanded. Turner had prepared for this moment with coaching from Dr. Foster about how to respond without revealing Earth's defensive preparations. We request additional time to consider your terms and perhaps negotiate modifications that would be acceptable to both our peoples. Mordeth's large eyes focused on the president with obvious disbelief at what he was hearing. No species had ever attempted to negotiate with the council after receiving an ultimatum. The very suggestion demonstrated either incredible courage or complete insanity on the part of these primitive humans. There will be no negotiations, Mordeth replied while projecting waves of telepathic intimidation that made several delegates faint from overwhelming fear. The council's terms are final and absolute. Your species will submit or be eliminated as examples to other potential rebels. Dr. Foster used this confrontation as perfect cover for the final phase of Operation Prometheus deployment. While Mordeth focused on intimidating world leaders, human engineers were completing installation of defensive systems throughout the solar system. Thousands of swarm protocol drones took hidden positions around council ships while mirror shield generators powered up from concealed locations. The most critical components were the Hammer of Sol missiles, which had been distributed to launch sites across Earth and its colonies. Each weapon carried advanced artificial intelligence designed to adapt and learn during flight, making them unpredictable opponents for rigid alien defense. Systems President Turner delivered humanity's final response. After careful consideration of every word, we appreciate the Council's offer, but humanity chooses to remain independent. We mean no harm to other species, but we will not surrender our freedom to anyone. Mordeth stood in shocked silence for several moments as his telepathic abilities confirmed that the human leader was completely serious about defying Council authority. Never in 10,000 years had any species chosen extinction over submission to superior power. You have 72 hours to reconsider this suicidal decision, Mordeth announced before returning to his shuttle. When that time expires, the Galactic Council will demonstrate why resistance is impossible. As the alien craft lifted off and returned to the fleet, Amy Foster smiled grimly while monitoring her hidden sensors. The readings had provided everything needed to complete humanity's desperate gamble against impossible odds. The 72-hour deadline expired at exactly noon Geneva time, and Overseer Zethkalar gave the order that would demonstrate Council power to any species foolish enough to resist their authority. 12 massive battleships moved into attack formation around Earth, while their weapons charged with enough energy to turn continents into molten glass. The alien commander expected this to be routine extermination like 17 previous rebellious civilizations. Dr. Amy Foster stood in the Luna base command center watching sensor displays that showed Council ships positioning themselves for synchronized bombardment. Every piece of defensive technology humanity had developed during Operation Prometheus was now ready for its first and possibly final test against enemies whose power had dominated the galaxy for 10,000 years. Admiral Lisa Hayes coordinated Earth's response from her position beside Amy while thousands of human military personnel waited at stations across the solar system. President Kevin Turner remained on Earth's surface in the Geneva bunker, where he could maintain communication with resistance forces until the very end. Everyone understood that this battle would determine whether humanity survived as a free species or joined the countless civilizations that had surrendered their independence to alien rule. The attack began when all 12 Council battleships fired their primary weapons simultaneously at Earth's major population centers. Massive energy beams capable of melting through planetary crusts streaked toward targets including New York, London, Tokyo, and Moscow. Zethkalar watched with satisfaction as his fleet delivered judgment on another primitive species that had refused to accept reality. But instead of watching cities vaporize the alien, Commander saw something impossible happen. Earth's mirror shield networks activated across the planet, creating electromagnetic barriers that deflected the energy beams harmlessly into space. The alien weapons that had destroyed moons just weeks earlier struck the shields and scattered like light-hitting mirrors. Dr. Carl Matthews had spent every waking hour perfecting the shield technology, using his knowledge of quantum field manipulation and electromagnetic theory. The shields analyzed incoming energy frequencies in real time, and generated precise opposite wave patterns that neutralized alien weapons completely. What the Council saw as unstoppable force met humanity's immovable defense. Zeth Kalar stared at his tactical displays in complete confusion as sensor readings confirmed that every shot had been deflected without causing any damage to Earth's surface. Never in Council history had any species successfully defended against their opening bombardment. The rigid alien mind struggled to process this unprecedented failure of supposedly perfect weapons before the Council could adapt. To this unexpected resistance, Amy Foster activated the swarm protocol from her command station on Luna Base. Thousands of small autonomous drones emerged from hidden positions throughout the solar system where they had waited in complete silence for weeks. Each drone was no larger than a human fighter craft, but together they formed a coordinated assault force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The drones attacked in waves using quantum drives that allowed them to appear and disappear around Council ships with completely unpredictable movement patterns. Commander Tony Blake had programmed each drone with artificial intelligence that learned and adapted during combat, making them impossible for alien computers to track effectively. While individually weak, their synchronized tactics overwhelmed the rigid targeting systems that Council forces relied upon. Captain Jake Morrison led a squadron of enhanced human fighters in precision strikes against the aliens' communication arrays. His pilots had trained for months to exploit the Council's tactical weaknesses, using hit-and-run attacks that violated every principle of organized space combat. Where alien formations followed mathematical precision, human pilots embraced chaos and improvisation. The Aurora danced between enemy ships like a ghost, using stealth technology that made it nearly invisible to Council sensors. Jake's crew targeted the antenna arrays and communication dishes that connected each battleship to Zeth Kalar's command vessel. Every successful strike weakened the centralized control network that held the alien fleet together. Admiral Lisa Hayes watched the battle unfold from Luna Base while coordinating defensive positions across Earth's surface. The mirror shield networks required constant adjustment as Council weapons tried different frequencies and power levels. Her engineers worked frantically to keep the shields active, while alien gunners searched for weaknesses in humanity's electromagnetic barriers. The turning point came when Dr. Matthews gave Amy the signal that their most ambitious weapon system was ready for deployment. The Hammer of Saul represented humanity's ultimate gamble against impossible odds. 50 enhanced nuclear missiles equipped with quantum drives and advanced artificial intelligence launched simultaneously from hidden positions across the solar system. Each missile carried programming that allowed it to think and learn during flight while adapting its approach based on enemy countermeasures. The artificial intelligence systems had been designed to embrace the controlled chaos that defined human engineering, rather than following predictable attack patterns that aliens could easily counter. Zeth Kalar ordered his point defense systems to destroy the incoming missiles, but found his weapons unable to track targets that changed course unpredictably every few seconds. The human weapons seemed to anticipate alien responses and adjusted their tactics faster than Council computers could calculate interception solutions. The missiles streaked toward the Dominion's edge while dodging defensive fire through maneuvers that violated standard ballistic physics. Their quantum drives allowed impossible course changes that confused alien targeting systems designed to handle conventional projectiles. As they approached the flagship, Amy Foster held her breath, knowing that everything depended on this one desperate attack. But the missiles did not target the ship's hull as Zeth Kalar expected. Instead, they detonated in a carefully calculated pattern around the Dominion's edge, creating a quantum disruption field that Dr. Matthews had designed specifically to interfere with Council technology. The electromagnetic pulse spread through space, carrying frequencies that overloaded alien control systems. Every light on the flagship went dark as its main computers crashed under the quantum interference. Zeth Kalar watched in horror as his command displays failed one by one, leaving him blind and helpless in the middle of battle. Without their central coordination system, the entire Council fleet lost formation as individual ships found themselves unable to communicate or coordinate their attacks. Dr. Foster smiled grimly as her sensors confirmed that the alien command structure had collapsed exactly as predicted. The Council's greatest strength had become their fatal weakness when humanity turned their centralized control against them. For the first time in 10,000 years, the supposedly invincible alien fleet found itself defeated by enemies they had dismissed as primitive barbarians. The galaxy would never be the same after this moment when Earth proved that freedom and innovation could triumph over ancient tyranny and technological superiority. The silence that followed humanity's victory was unlike anything the galaxy had experienced in 10,000 years. Overseer Zethkalar sat in his darkened command chamber aboard the Dominion's edge, while emergency power slowly restored basic life support systems. His flagship drifted helplessly in space with its main computers destroyed and communication arrays offline. Never in Council history had their most advanced vessel been disabled by what they considered primitive technology. Around him, the entire alien fleet struggled with similar problems as the quantum disruption field continued to interfere with their centralized control networks. Ships that had operated with perfect coordination for millennia now found themselves isolated and confused without constant guidance from command computers. Individual captains who had forgotten how to think independently, after centuries of automated warfare, sat paralyzed in their vessels. Dr. Amy Foster monitored the situation from Luna base while human forces maintained defensive positions throughout the solar system. The battle was over, but she knew this moment would determine whether Earth's victory led to peace or triggered an even larger war. Everything depended on how the Council chose to respond to their first military defeat in recorded galactic history. President Kevin Turner emerged from the Geneva bunker and addressed the world with news that humanity had successfully defended itself against alien invasion. Celebrations erupted across Earth as people who had spent weeks preparing for extinction instead found themselves free and victorious. But the president warned that their fight for independence was just beginning. Within hours of the battle's end, Admiral Lisa Hayes received an unexpected transmission from the Council fleet. Overseer Zethkalar was requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations, rather than calling for reinforcements to continue the attack. His pride had been wounded, but his intelligence remained intact enough to recognize that continuing this conflict would only lead to more defeats. Captain Jake Morrison transported the human negotiation team to a neutral meeting point halfway between Earth and the disabled Council flagship. The Aurora had emerged from the battle undamaged thanks to its stealth capabilities and superior maneuverability. Jake found it ironic that humanity's first diplomatic contact with galactic civilization would happen aboard their own ship rather than surrendering to alien authority. President Turner led the human delegation along with Dr. Foster, whose technical expertise would be crucial for any future agreements. Admiral Hayes joined them to represent Earth's military interests, while Dr. Carl Matthews brought detailed analysis of Council technology weaknesses that had been revealed during the battle. Zethkalar arrived at the meeting accompanied by Admiral Vexus Thera and several other Council representatives who still seemed stunned by their defeat. The alien commander's usual arrogance had been replaced by grudging respect for enemies who had accomplished the impossible. For the first time in his long career, he found himself negotiating from a position of weakness. "Your species has achieved something unprecedented," Zethkalar admitted as he faced President Turner across the conference table. "No civilization has ever successfully resisted Council authority through military force. We underestimated human capabilities and paid the price for our assumptions." Dr. Foster presented detailed recordings of the battle, along with analysis that explained how human technology had overcome supposedly superior alien systems. She demonstrated that Earth's adaptive approach to engineering created weapons and defenses that could evolve faster than rigid Council computers could counter them. "Your mistake was assuming that newer technology must be inferior technology," Amy explained while displaying quantum field equations on the main screen. "Human science follows different principles than yours. Where you prioritize control and efficiency, we embrace controlled chaos and constant adaptation." The negotiations revealed deeper truths about galactic politics that shocked even the human representatives. The Council's 10,000-year dominance had created technological stagnation throughout their territory as member species were forbidden from developing innovations that might threaten established authority. Progress had essentially stopped as entire civilizations accepted permanent subordination. Admiral Vex Thera spoke for the first time since arriving at the negotiations. "Your victory has already sent shockwaves through Council space. Dozens of member species are questioning their submission to our authority. after witnessing what independent development can achieve. Some are demanding the right to pursue their own technological advancement. President Turner recognized the opportunity that Earth's military success had created. Rather than simply demanding to be left alone, humanity could leverage their victory to transform galactic civilization itself. The human approach to science and technology represented hope for species that had spent millennia under alien control. "We propose a new arrangement," Turner announced after consulting with his advisors. "Instead of submitting to Council authority, Earth offers to share our quantum drive technology and adaptive engineering principles in exchange for full membership in the galactic community. Our innovations could benefit every civilization if freely developed rather than suppressed." The proposal sparked intense debate among Council representatives, who had never considered allowing member species equal status rather than subordinate positions. Some argued that humanity's victory was a fluke that would never be repeated, while others realized that the old system of control through intimidation would no longer work. Dr. Matthews presented evidence that human technological development could revolutionize Council capabilities within decades rather than centuries. Earth's willingness to share knowledge freely contradicted every assumption about how advanced civilizations protected their advantages over potential rivals. After 3 days of negotiations, the Council agreed to establish the Terran Accords, which granted Earth autonomous membership status with full rights to technological development and territorial expansion. More importantly, the agreement created frameworks for other species to pursue independent advancement rather than accepting permanent technological limits. Zetkalar signed the historic treaty with obvious reluctance but also recognition that the galaxy had changed forever. "You have done more than defend your planet," he told President Turner during the final ceremony. "You have proven that our entire system of governance was built on false assumptions about the nature of progress in civilization." Thor. Years later, Admiral Jake Morrison commanded humanity's first official exploration fleet beyond Council space, searching for other independent civilizations that might benefit from Earth's example. Dr. Foster had established the Interstellar Development Institute, where human and alien scientists worked together to push the boundaries of what technology could achieve. President Turner addressed the new United Galactic Assembly, where dozens of species that had once cowered under alien dominance now stood as equals, pursuing their own paths toward advancement. The democratic body had replaced the authoritarian Council after member civilizations demanded representation rather than submission. The transformation was remarkable and continuing to spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had been forbidden from developing space travel for thousands of years were launching their first interstellar expeditions. Others were revolutionizing their societies using principles of freedom and innovation that Earth had demonstrated were stronger than oppression and control. Earth's rockets had carried more than weapons when they challenged the Council fleet. They had delivered a message that spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The age of technological tyranny was over, and a new era of cooperative advancement had begun, with humanity leading the way toward a future where every species could reach for the stars.